From the gushing geysers of Giant to the plutonium-powered time machine of Back to the Future, Energy at the Movies illustrates how filmmakers have captured the history of energy. Join energy expert and professor Dr. Michael Weber as he explores 70 years of energy on the big screen. Energy at the Movies.
How do you like that intro? It sounds like Dallas or something. My name is Michael Weber. Thank you for coming tonight. Welcome to Energy at the Movies. We're going to do two things tonight. We're going to watch some fun movie clips, and we're also going to learn about energy. And it turns out you can do both of those things at the same time because movies are historical documents, and energy has been a rich source of material for those historical documents. So by watching movies, we can actually learn the story of energy. I have two goals tonight. One is I want to change the way you think about movies. I want to get you out of the plot and the storyline and the dialogue and all the characters and all that stuff. And I want you to pay attention to the rest of the frame to look for historical clues about energy because they're in there and they will tell us about the historical context, what's going on in society at the time that movie or film was made. I want you to think differently about movies. I also want to change the way you think about energy. Energy is not static, it's dynamic. It changes with time. And it's very easy for us today to think that the way we consume energy today will always be that way to the future, but it will change and it has changed. So that's the punchline. Movies are historical documents and energy changes with time. So let's get started. The reason why we're here today to talk about energy is because energy is good. It enables the things we like transportation or the cozy comforts of home or clean water, productive agriculture or industry. It makes us strong and healthy and happy, so we like that. And the way we use energy today actually differentiates us or separates us from pre-industrial societies. We've had this form of government democracy for thousands of years. Our brains aren't different. What's different about modern society from older societies is the way we use energy and what energy forms we use. But energy has drawbacks. It can lead to pollution and national security vulnerabilities. It can be dangerous. And so we as a society must always balance the upside and the downsides of energy, especially as we move forward. So let's go over the history of energy transitions. If we go back in time to the early 1600s when we were colonies, we used less than 1 quad of energy, 1 quadrillion BTU, mostly in the form of wood, and mostly for lighting, heating, cooking, and housing. As we grew into a country and our population grew and our economy grew, we used more wood. Our energy consumption went up, and we chopped down a lot of trees. And in fact, we chopped those trees down faster than they grew back. We started to deforest the Northeast. That's an important point to keep in mind. Around 1850, we started to use coal. Yeah, that was at the same time as the Second Industrial Revolution, and we used coal for steel and for machinery and heating and cooking. And it turns out that coal is a better fuel. It's got better energy density. It burns hotter and it burns longer. And it's actually much cleaner than wood. Less ash, less soot, less smoke. So coal came along and it was better than wood. And so our coal production started to rise and our wood use started to decline, and that was good news. In a weird way, coal saved the forests. It's not what we think about today. We think of coal as a threat to the forest through surface mining, mountaintop removal, acid rain, but a couple hundred years ago it was the other way around. Coal use comes along, saves the forest. All those beautiful forests in Maine and the Northeast, those are regrowth, second growth forests. They weren't there in the 1800s because we had chopped them down. So we've had an energy transition before from wood to coal, and it was good for us. Around the same time, 1859, we started to produce oil. We used oil for kerosene. We use kerosene for lighting. If you take a barrel of oil, one slice in the middle is kerosene, the rest we'd burn away or throw away. We didn't use it that much except for the kerosene. And we use that kerosene for lighting as an alternative to whale oil, which is what we had used. Kerosene, turns out, was better than whale oil. And then we had this other concern about running out of whales, peak whale, if you will, where whale production had been increasing for the first half of the 1800s, then declining. And we were able to save the whales by using petroleum-based kerosene because kerosene burned brighter, burned longer, burned cleaner, less smoke, and it didn't have that nasty pungent smell of burning blubber. Coal saved the forests, oil saved the whales. These are environmentally friendly fuels, at least they were a couple hundred years ago. Moving forward in the post-war era from the 1940s onwards in the United States, we see more of all of it. More oil, more coal, more wood, more natural gas, more nuclear, more hydro and renewables, other things. We see more and more consumption coming along. And that's sort of the story of the post-war era. More consumption, more people, more economic growth, more money, more quality of life, more waste, more pollution. Look at that growth in all those fuels over the last 60 years or so. That's where we are today. Looking back, we can learn something from this history. First of all, there were transitions. We've gone from wood to coal to oil. So energy transitions are actually something we do. They're not something we should be afraid of. So that's something we should be familiar with. The second point is these transitions take a long time. Wood grew and fell over 150 years. Coal was dominant for 65 years. Oil's been king for 60 years. And that implies to me that whatever's next, and I can't tell what's next, maybe natural gas, that might take decades to displace whatever coal and oil are doing. The third point is these transitions have been good for us over time, where we've decarbonized over time. Wood is by far the most carbon-intensive fuel, followed by coal, followed by petroleum, followed by natural gas, followed by nuclear and other things. We've been decarbonizing as a society for a couple hundred years, at least in terms of the carbon intensity per fuel use. That's a good news story. This isn't some modern concept invented a decade ago by politicians. This is something we've been doing as a society for hundreds of years. So if we continue to decarbonize today, it's actually continuing a legacy or tradition. It's what modern civilizations do. And it turns out that our culture, our films, our TV, our radio, and other elements of culture have captured these lessons of energy transitions in history and have looked forward into the future of energy and put that onto film for us. Let's go ahead and go through the fuels now one by one. Let's start with wood, the first main fuel we use. And this actually shows up in movies, but doesn't have much of a presence because wood's use peaked in 1875 in the United States, and movies didn't come along until the early 1900s. So the presence of wood in films is mostly in silent films. Here's some clips, for example. So wood doesn't really make a presentation. It's there, it's a declining lumber yard, they're going bankrupt, that's it, wood's on the way out by the time movies come along. So there's not much more to tell you. Coal, however, has a much longer history in America, and by the time movies hit their heyday in the 1930s, 1940s, coal had already been a staple of American existence for decades. Here's some openings from How Green Was My Valley, 1941.
So I can close my eyes on my valley as it is today, and it is gone, and I see it as it was when I was a boy. Green it was and possessed of the plenty of the earth. In all Wales there was none so beautiful. In those days, the black slag, the waste of the coal pits, had only begun to cover the side of our hill. Not yet enough to mar the countryside, nor blacken the beauty of our village. For the colliery had only begun to poke its skinny black fingers through the green.